Okay, Lions tour. Ooh, excited for this. Let's have a look at some of these starting teams before we get in this kick-off game in Dublin against Argentina. Today is a bad day to be an Argentinian centre. Justo Picado, Lucio Cinta, we salute you.
Turnover's gone.
Strip, off it goes, Argentina. They don't miss out this time.
Well, that was anticlimactic. Hey, it was always going to be that way. Lions tests are notorious for being clunky to start off with. I mean, you could even guess that with the selection that the Lions went with. It was basically the biggest physical pack that you could go for, an attempt to try and have some chemistry at halfback by putting Mitchell and Finn Smith together. Basically putting the two biggest guys in the pitch that you physically can in the centres. Freeman at one wing, Duhan on the other wing. And, they lost to the fifth best team in the world right now. Considering this is their first game together, I don't mind it too much. I especially don't mind it too much because I put a bet on Argentina to win this evening with pretty good odds. I don't understand odds makers with rugby. Sometimes they just don't really understand situations. Who are you going to trust? The fifth best team in the world, who last year beat New Zealand, South Africa, Australia in the Rugby Championship, and, regularly make it into semi-finals of World Cups. Or you're going to test a team of players that have trained together for a week. Arguably, it's the best players in all of, the British and Irish Isles. But yeah, I don't know how I got such good odds. And I did think the writing was on the wall that the Lions were going to lose this game. Granted, Argentina had a lot of players that were out, but a lot of the players that filled in were sensational. First of all, you got Julian Montoya coming and basically playing a full 80 minutes. A week after, he's just gone and played 80 minutes for Leicester Tigers in the Premiership final. Well, 70 minutes. That's a sensational effort considering he's 34 as well. Their back row are always dangerous, both in ball carrying and turnover potential. Gonzalez, who plays for Saracens, is fantastic. Malia is just a big fucker that can get in the way of a lot of shit, and he did that today. And their backline was sensational. I thought the scrum half got the ball out constantly very quick. Their fly half, Albornez, I'm not 100% sure where this guy's come from, but he is quick. And he was probably pretty instrumental in a lot of these counter-attacks that were the difference between Argentina and the British and Irish Lions this evening. The game started off with Argentina winning the kicking battle. It started off, within the first 20 minutes of kick over here, kick over there, kick in the stands, kick down the floor. And Argentina ultimately won this kicking battle. It's what put them in the position to go ahead with an early 3 points. It's what put them in the position to come back and score again with the counter-kicking. You could really see that Argentina had targeted the breakdown or knock-ons or loose play. They did their homework on this game. They basically decided we're committing nobody to rucks. We're getting people out on the line and making sure that our line is spread wide. We don't care about competing for rucks. What we care about is if there's a knock-on or if there's a loose kick. Basically things that a team that is all playing together for the first time are likely to make. Mistakes they're likely to make. And they counted off of that. Even within their own 22, they were willing to run it all the way back and did score a try off of that because they knew that was when the time was to attack, when everything was all higgledy-piggledy, organisation's not there, and the chemistry in their team was the difference between the chemistry that the Lions have not had the chance to build up yet. I think the Aki solo try was pretty excellent. It was off a 5 metre scrum that needed a couple of phases to get right, but then it was a solo effort by Aki to just crash it over the line. And I thought that was kind of the formula that the Lions had to kind of do in this game, considering that, having a week together to work together to get moves is very limited time. And that's what I thought they were going to do with the direct selections of Bundee and Tuipulotu. I think in the second half, they targeted a lot more to try and run it out of their own half, which I thought was a pretty good idea, considering the kicking game wasn't going their way, playing it a little bit too much. But I do think it did end up in, mistakes happening where they knocked it on in their own half, or someone got isolated and it all just looked a little bit disjointed, but it always was going to. However, there were some stand-up performances in this Lions team. Tommy Freeman, I think, was absolutely excellent. He was all over the place. Ellis, Genge, both in ball carrying, scrummaging, and a third one in terms of work rate round the park in terms of tackling, I think was excellent as well. Tom Curry, I thought, was also excellent. And I think Duhan showed some real quality in ball carrying. But there were some questions in defensive setup, and I definitely think the Mende try on the side, when he kind of ran at the distance, was a missed tackle by Duhan that could be missed. Speaking of missed tackles, the missed tackle by both Pollock and Tom Curry after they blitzed off of the line. They created a small dogleg that the Argentinian fly half, I think his name is Albornez, he just managed to make that break and just go the whole distance by passing it, getting it through the hands, and then kicking it down to the corner for a try. Magnificent stuff. At the end of the day, this is a hell of a performance by Argentina. They came with a game plan. They executed it to the maximum. Every now and again, their emotional side did start to creep up a little bit, and you were worried they were going to get a card. They did get a yellow card, but that was not for an emotional part. That was for collapsing them all. But they really kind of held their emotional side in check in terms of giving away penalties or yellow cards. Felt like Montoya was maybe a little bit lucky with that hook he had on the back of the scrum. Don't know how that happens, just getting yourself in a position from the middle of a scrum to get the scrum half's hand. Don't know how we didn't really get carded for that. But for the most part, the emotions were always held in check. And that's what I think Argentina's weakness generally is. While we're on the subject of the scrum, I think the British and Irish Lions scrum was super dominant today, which is really impressive. I mean, yes, they've got the talent there, but this is a team that's had scrummage practice, which is what's the word I'm looking for? It's a practice that takes a huge amount of teamwork, a lot of collaboration and cognition with your fellow teammates to get a solid scrum together. So to get that together in 1 week's time, to be that dominant in terms of earning that many penalties against an Argentinian side that is known for getting penalties at scrum time, they're very good at that, I think was really impressive, and that's a huge thing to build off of. Australia in the future, their pack, I think, has gotten a lot better over the last year or two, right? And I think scrummaging for them, what used to be quite a bit of a weakness, has now kind of become much more middle or higher end of the pack in terms of internationals. But if the British and Irish Lions can get a really solid scrum in this series working, I think that is something they can take in the tests, and I think they have the talent availability to beat the Australians in that regard. I think they do have the talent to do that. So this early sign of really good scrummaging for the British Irish Lions is a great sign. You win scrum penalties, whether it's your ball or the opposition's ball, every time it's a knock on, it's basically a free 30 or 40 metres or an extra 3 points on the board. So that's really positive to see from the British and Irish Lions. Couple of side notes. A prop came on from the Super Americas League called Boris Wenger. Hell of a name. Not too much to add to that. The solo effort where Cowan-Dickie almost scored, where he bulldozed 3 players over but just knocked it on over. Hell of a solo effort by Cowan-Dickie. I think he's really going to be knocking on the door to be that sub-shirt in the test series, with obviously Sione probably the favourite to start the games. And I'll leave this on a final note. I get excited to watch rugby. You got to if you're going to be doing a YouTube channel on it. However, I haven't been this excited and genuinely having a beaming smile over my face for months, probably since England kind of had their renaissance back into the Six Nations. It's so cool to see all these players come together from different countries and just start to work together as an cohesive. There's cohesion to come in this team, but to kind of work together, to play together, so cool to see. And I get to sit at home and I get to shout shoo when Schoeman takes the ball. That's freaking cool, dude. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'm feeling a little bit more positive about this than you probably would do with a loss, but at the end of the day, it's first test. I would say it's a test. It's the first test, and you're 4 points away when you've had a week's worth of training, and you've also got the vast majority of players, not vast majority, but a lot of the starters that you would assume would be starting in a test series are all kind of out because of they've played in finals. You're thinking of like Jack Conan, Dan Sheehan, Ollie Chesham, James Lowe. These are all players that, you know, are all going to be vying for that starting spots in the Australia's tests. Words are failing me, so I'll leave it at that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it wherever you were.